I was 10 years old the first time I contemplated taking my life. 7th grade is when my depression really started to kick in. Started making myself throw up, and I was eating less and less every day. My arms at one point were just covered in scratches and scars. I just completely lost myself. I was not Ainsley. I was a shell of a person, and I was just in such a dark place. I had no hope. I had full intent of coming home from school that day and taking my life. I was held hostage by my depression and by my eating disorders. I couldn't escape it, but at my lowest point, I was like, okay, it's time to turn it around. I found things that I enjoyed. I got involved in Cavs Join for Hope with Cassidy Join for Hope. Got to start sharing my mental health story. And for me, being able to begin sharing my mental health story, that is what gave me purpose again. Because for me, it made me feel that everything that I had been through, all of my pain, all of my tears, all of my sorrows, all of my sleepless nights, that they had a purpose now. I'm 19. I just finished my first year at Ole Miss. I'm majoring in psychology with the minor in entrepreneurship to help me to be able to open up my own counseling center to then hopefully be able to integrate psychiatrists in there and help form a new way of treatment and improve the way that treatment and therapy is right now, make it better for other people. I struggled a lot during childhood, and I know how difficult it is. It's not something that's easy. My parents were divorced when I was really young, so I think that split kind of changed a lot of things and how I approach. I think that made me right there start to become more dependent on myself. Not saying that my parents weren't there for me, because they most definitely were throughout every single part of my life, but it led me to feel like I needed to be more independent. So I didn't talk as much about like my feelings and my problems, and I think that led me to become very isolated in myself later on in life. But I was a very happy kid. I was always involved. I always wanted to do things, but I was also very insecure. And I knew that that started from when I was a very young age. Going through all of my mental health journey and going back, I did a lot of backtracking and finding, where I think all of my disorders and some of my issues started and the things that fed in and catalyzed all of my issues. With all of my cousins, comparing the way that my body looked to all of them, and seeing that, when we were younger, all just swimming at our grandparents' house, that it was really more that's where my insecurities were starting to go, and that's where my eating disorder seed was planted. And seeing those things, and when I think about it, it breaks my heart for the little girl that I was, just thinking when I was 5 years old, already thinking that there were things that I needed to change about myself. So starting that young, of course, if they're not being treated right then and there, they only grew. And me keeping those things to myself also made me find a lot of comfort in them. So I never wanted to leave, and I didn't want to share them with anyone, because then that comfort would be taken away. My dad moved away when I was younger too, so having my dad far away, that was very hard. It made it seem like there was a part of me that was missing, or that was just far away. And I think that led to me feeling more lonely too. I think I just got stuck in this really dark spot where I was already feeling lonely when I was 7 years old. And by the time I was 10 years old the first time I contemplated taking my life. And just from the complete isolation that I felt. And I was already hopeless at 10 years old, but I tried to, I kept going, but then really I just found fixations that kept me going, because then it was more on my body image, and I was like, okay, well, I can work on this, and this will keep me going. And I was in 6th grade the first time I ordered diet pills, and my mom found those. So those never made it to me, which was very good, but because I couldn't attack that issue there, it just kind of kept going. So it started with me eating less and less, and switching out a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for a chicken and spinach wrap, and my goldfish for raw almonds. And then I got to the point where I was really only eating fruit every single day. So I think a lot of it is I tried to find a reason to stay, but my reasons to stay weren't healthy for a very, very long time. And that just sent me further down into a spiral where I really, really started to struggle. It was, I think, in seventh grade. Seventh grade is when my depression really started to kick in. But Kim came and spoke at the school and shared Cassidy's story. And that was the first time like a light had kind of turned on for me, that I was like, oh, okay, like there is something, like there's something out there. There are people who have struggled. I see that. But, you know, that initially seeing that, while it did turn a light on for me, the darkness that was inside of me, it was still too much at that point. So the darkness did overshadow the light in that point. But that's because I chose not to see the light. And I think that's the biggest thing in wanting to get better at any point in your life, is you have to choose to see that and to want it. And so eighth grade, I got worse. My eating disorder got a lot worse. I started making myself throw up, and I was eating less and less every day. So the little bit that I was eating, I was just getting rid of. And the summer going into my freshman year of high school was a very, very hard summer, because I just fell completely into my eating disorder and into my depression. And I made it home. And it made everything else, the entire world around me, seem absolutely terrifying. So going back to school, I was about to start high school, and I would ask my mom every single day. I was like, please don't make me go to high school. I was like, can I transfer? Like, can I do online? Like, I don't want to go. I got very, very scared. And then school came and I started, and it did not help anything. It really did make things a lot worse. So over the summer, within 3 months, I had lost 15 pounds and was just like continuing to go downhill. And still, people were starting to say things. They were starting to notice, but I would just play it off because I didn't want to have to leave that life that I was living. And I started my freshman year still continuing down those things, crying myself to sleep every single night, having to drag myself out of bed every single morning, just not wanting to do anything, like just wanting to fade away into existence. But, you know, you have to keep pushing yourself because that's not life. And finally, a friend pushed me to say something to my mom. And so I saw a doctor, did all of my mental health questionnaires. I got put on Lexapro, and that made things a lot worse for me. And then I switched to another medication. I started doing eating disorder treatment. So it was just all at once. And it was a lot. And it made me just not want to accept any of the help at all. So for a long time, while I was still receiving treatment and getting the help that I needed, I still was not making the choice to be better. So I just kind of let myself sit there, and it got worse. And I got to the point where like I could barely go to school. I would go to school every day and have a panic attack every single day. I have to run to the bathroom in class because I would start bawling my eyes out just because I didn't know what was going on there. I was just so overwhelmed with anxiety, and just like my thoughts were too much for me to be able to handle. I started harming myself while I was at school. I would sit in class and just mutilate my arms. My arms at one point were just covered in like scratches and scars, and I just completely lost myself. I was not Ainsley. I was a shell of a person. But I told my mom one day when I was at school, I said, if you don't get me out of here today, you will not have the opportunity to get me out of here again. And I was just in such a dark place. I had no hope. And I was like, if I have to keep doing this every single day, I'm not going to survive. And I had full intent. This was in January of my freshman year. I had full intent of coming home from school that day and taking my life. But thankfully, my mom answered my cry for help. And the next day was my last day at College Park. I withdrew. I started online school. I did that for a year and a half. I worked on getting better. I went to therapy and dietitians and PCPs and other specialists. I was at the doctor's office all the time, but at that time, that's what I needed. I needed that time to focus on myself, working on myself, getting better, finding reasons to live. So I spent a lot of time trying to find, my values and what really, really mattered to me in life and what was important. And I think finding those small things that anchor you as a person, like your family and your friends and the small things you enjoy, like for me, which is music or being outside in the sun, finding those few small things that anchor you to who you are. You just need to find those small things. And then from there, you can build off of that. And once I struggled, I found those things. I did. But the disorder in me was still, it was like a monster that just like constantly suffocated me. I was held hostage by my depression and by my eating disorders. I couldn't escape it. But I guess one day I gathered the strength to stand up to it. I tried to start getting better, and I did for a while. And then I had a very big slip up, and I started all of the medications that I was prescribed. I stopped taking them. My mom didn't know. She thought that I took them every morning, but I stuck them in my pocket and hid them in my room for months. And this was my sophomore year. It was just a really, really gray day in February. And I was at that point again where I had completely lost hope. And I did not want to keep going. I had no care to. And I came home from a friend's house that night. I told my mom good night. I walked upstairs. I grabbed the jewelry box that my great-grandmother had given me when I was born. It has a tray in it that lifts up. And so I would lift it up and hide all of my pills in there. And I carried my jewelry box to my bathroom. Like, this is something that I was given to when I was born. And then it's holding all of these things that I was wanting to use in my life. So it was quite a paradox for me, but I locked myself in my bathroom. I texted my friend. I think I said, "I love you. Thank you for everything." Started taking pills. My mom comes running upstairs, busts through the door. Pills go on the bathroom floor. And it was at that point where I was like, okay, I'm done feeling like I can't do anything anymore. I'm done feeling like I am a shell of a human being, like I don't know who I am, that I can't be something better for other people because I can't even be enough for myself. So it was there. That was probably that was my lowest point. But at my lowest point, I was like, okay, it's time to turn it around. So I took those things that I found that anchored me, and I started using them every single day. I started using the things that I learned in therapy, that when I'm anxious, take deep breaths, find things to distract your mind. When I'm really, really, really depressed and I can't get out of bed and I don't want to do anything, that I go outside and get some fresh air and go in the sun or do something that I enjoy. And sometimes when you have all of these overwhelming thoughts, a lot of what you have to do is just trying to distract your mind. But that's finding things that you enjoy doing. And anything, I think that just adds more purpose to your life, because you're finding things that you're good at and that fulfill you as a person. And I think that's a really big thing. So I started finding things that fulfilled myself. I got better. I was happy. I was healthy. And I decided at the beginning of my junior year that I was going to go back to public high school. So I did. And that was a very, very scary thing, because I'd been gone for a year and a half. I'd been on my own for a year and a half, but it was time for me to use all of those tools and everything that I had been through, for me. So I went back to school, and it was scary, but I found things that I enjoyed. I got involved in Cavs Join for Hope, with Cassidy Join for Hope. Miss Kim reached out to me. I got to start sharing my mental health story. And for me, being able to begin sharing my mental health story, that is what gave me purpose again. Because for me, it made me feel that everything that I had been through, all of my pain, all of my tears, all of my sorrows, all of my sleepless nights, that they had a purpose now. because I could use my pain to help make other people aware, to tell them that they're not alone, and to show the world too that this is an issue. It's not just, depression and eating disorders. It's not just some like fad on Instagram. Like, it is a real thing, and it's a real issue, and it doesn't just happen in adults. It's a huge thing in kids, and it's a problem that needs to be addressed. And it's not just, because we have a disorder or because we go through certain things in life. I think that there's a lot of things in this world now that, don't necessarily promote a happy headspace for people anymore. And I think it's important to try and draw attention to that so we can change it and make it better, so there aren't so many teens and kids and human beings in general struggling every single day to just live, because that's not how life should be. We should enjoy life. And one thing I've learned is that life is very, very hard. It definitely does not get easier at all. But our experiences, they help us build this foundation, and that foundation can help us combat all of our battles that we face, and it helps us attack those problems. So when I was gone away at my first year at school this year, and I was completely alone, and I fell into a deep depression, I started struggling with my eating disorder again, I had to hold myself accountable, but also know that my experiences, even though I've already been through something like this, I got through it, and I can get through it again because I'm stronger now. The pain that I had gone through, it's made me stronger, and I can use it to keep attacking these problems. And using my experiences this past year, using my pain that I've been through, I got myself through this first year of school, and I definitely won't say it was just me. I had a very big supportive community that helped me, get through it. But I really do think the biggest thing that I've learned is that our pain does give us a purpose. And it's not just my pain that's giving me this purpose to share my story, but I think everyone in life has something that has hurt them, but they've used that to drive them towards something great. And yeah, life is hard, but I think that's what makes it so beautiful, is that it gives us a chance to find another purpose, a greater purpose, and to help other people. And that's something that's very tricky, and it's a sensitive subject because I think a lot of parents too, they're scared that they're going to say something and it may set their kid off. But it's not, because you know what? If your kid's already thinking that, like, that idea is already in their head. You're not planting a seed in their head. I think all of us, especially with social media, we're very aware of all of the things out there. I think everyone knows that suicide exists. You mentioning it is not gonna, I don't think it's gonna suddenly plant a seed in their head. And I think it starts with something as simple as 3 words. Are you okay? And even if they say yes, because you're more likely than not, they're gonna say, yes, I'm fine. I said, yes, I'm fine every single day, but I was not. And I think the most important thing to do is let them know that they're not alone, and that they have support, and that they're loved. And life is hard, but it is beautiful, and it's about finding those things. And I think the most important thing to know is that they're cared about, and that they just want to support you, and they want to be there for you. I know my mom, when I was going through a lot of things, I am beyond blessed to have had her when I was going through all of my struggles. But I will say I was definitely not always nice to her. I was not easy, because I still didn't want that help. And for parents having a kid who is struggling, it is not easy. I know that it's not, because on top of the parents already being worried that their kid is not okay and being so sad that their kid is not okay, they're also worrying that, like, they're not able to do something to help. And I think simply letting them know that, like, you're there, and if they need something, talk to them. I think the most important thing is finding a comfortable space. That's the number one thing, is finding a comfortable space where you can talk about it. Because a lot of times too, when you're struggling, you find comfort in those struggles, and you want to keep them to yourself. You don't want to share them with people. Or for me, I didn't want to burden people with my problems, so I just kept it all to myself. And having a having a comfortable space where you see each other as two human beings. Like, I'm here for you just as you're here for me. We both need support. And I think it's drawing attention of that. I think maybe highlighting the fact that even if you don't necessarily think that you're struggling a lot, if you're not completely okay, I want you to know that I'm there for you. And I want you to talk to me, because I've struggled in life too. I know that life's not easy. And I know you think I don't completely understand what you're going through, but I bet you I have an idea of it. And it's better for me to be there and kind of support you, or to be there to support you, than be completely in the dark and have no idea what's going on. And I think for feeling alone when you're in a depression like that is terrible. It's the most isolating feeling in the entire world. And it's so hard to want to let other people into that. But I think the biggest thing is just allowing the door to open. You know, you don't have to keep it open. You can crack that door, but at least have a way for other people, for other people's voices to get inside of your head, to try and, you know, change the way that you're thinking and that the way that your brain's directed. I don't know, just letting people know that they're not alone. That's the biggest thing, I really think. To whoever is struggling or feels like they're not okay or is not okay, I'm sorry that you're feeling the way that you are, but I promise you, life does get better. It may not seem like that. It may seem like all of the hope in the world is gone, but you are here for a reason. You have been placed on this earth for a reason. And I promise that you have a calling out there. And it may just be really hard to hear right now, but keep going for the hope that you will find that, because I promise you that you will. We all have a purpose here. And sometimes we just have to wait a little while to find it. But try and find, if you haven't found your great big purpose, do your best to try and find a little bit of purpose in each and every single day. Even if that's simply getting up in the morning and drinking a glass of water. There's your purpose for today, is taking care of yourself. It doesn't have to be some great big elaborate purpose yet. It's simply just living. Living is a purpose, right there, living. And yes, sometimes it's hard to be happy, and you don't have to fake being happy. You don't have to fake being anything. We have our emotions for a reason. They exist for a reason. And our emotions, they remind us that we're living, breathing human beings. So we need to use them, but we also need to try and protect ourselves from them and not letting those emotions go too far sometimes. I think the biggest thing is when I first got to share my mental health story. The first time I got to do that, it was at Lone Star it was another suicide prevention event. It was in October. And I think hearing what I had been through and seeing it resonate with just one other person in the crowd, like seeing a change in someone's facial expression for the first time just based off of what I said, that right there, that gave me some purpose. And seeing that what I had been through, like that just helped someone. That helped someone. And that led me to keep pushing forward, even though I was still struggling, even though while I was sharing what I had been through, I was still struggling. I mean, I still struggle now. But I think finding that purpose and just that one person who, like that switch that I flipped and I saw it, that made me feel like everything that I'd been through, it was for a reason. And that it now pushes me forward to want to keep doing more, because yes, I think now I know what I want to do. I want to help people. I want to help people who have been through situations similar that I had, but I still have a lot of figuring out to do about that. So if anything, it's pushing me forward more, because now I want to learn. I want to learn more so I can help people. I have the knowledge from my experiences, but now I'm eager to learn more so I can truly, truly help people beyond based off of just what I'm saying. I think the number one thing I did is I stopped following celebrities, because a majority of what they're posting, it's not real anyways. Yeah, sure, it's maybe they were really there, they were really wearing that, but it's been edited so far beyond that. Like, it's not realistic. I think the worst part of our generation is that we forget what real life actually looks like, and it becomes so unfamiliar to us because we're all stuck to our phones. And it's so sad that real world life, it's just not all that it was anymore, or it's just not as many people take advantage of it anymore. But social media, I did a research paper about this actually my junior year, of the pros and cons of social media on mental health. I definitely personally think there are a lot more cons than pros. Yes, it helps connect us to other people and stay in touch and in tune with what's going on, sure. But there's so many more negatives. It makes us fixate on things that aren't important. It makes us, like, lust after expensive things, and really just lust in general. It's kind of corrupted our generation, in my opinion. I think, follow things that make you happy. For me, that's cooking videos and music videos and videos of cute animals, things that make you smile. Yes, follow your friends, but stop worrying so much about what you look like. It doesn't matter. Like, yes, present yourself in a nice way, sure, but how you look doesn't matter. Who you are is what matters. And you know what? You can't always really see who you are when you're on social media. So I think just try and live your life to where you're following your values and what really matters to you in life, and do your best to try and find what really is important in life, because I don't think social media is one of those things that's most important at all. And if that means, having to completely delete the apps, if you can't stop unfollowing certain users or stop doing this, if you have to completely delete it, then detox yourself from it. If you can't, pick and choose what you see and what you don't, I think that's the healthiest thing that you could do, especially if that's something that you're fixating on so much, is images of other people. Delete it, get rid of it, read a book. They still exist. Listen to music, go outside. Just get off of your phone, because life still exists. If you are worried about someone and you do ask those 3 words, are you okay? Which is the easiest thing that you could ask and the easiest thing that you could do to prevent someone from taking their life or from going further downhill. If they automatically respond, I'm fine, with a smile on their face, I pinky promise you, they are not fine. They are not fine, because anyone who can automatically flip a switch like that and have a smile on their face, they're not fine. I did it every single day. I promise you, they're not telling you the truth if that is how they respond to that question. And, if you ask again and they say, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, and they're not changing their answer, okay, but keep an eye out if you can talk to their parents. And if it is something that you're truly worried about and you feel like you need to reach out to an adult, just be like, hey, this person's been acting off. I'm a little worried about it. I'm not necessarily saying that I think something's gonna happen, but I think that you should pay a little bit more attention to see if they're okay. And it is in the small things. Like, for me, yes, I would have a smile on my face all the time, but I would always zone out and I would always just be off in my own world. And it took someone else to grab my attention, where I would put my mask back on and be all happy and smiley again. Always ask more than once if someone is okay, because that first answer, more than likely, is not truthful. I think that's something that's very, very important. And even if they say yes, just let them know, okay, well, if you're not, I'm here for you.